Alright guys, so we looked at subtraction by using the expanded form of the numbers to help us subtract. Well, now we're going to look at what we call the standard algorithm. And that's not using the expanded form, but just using the numbers as they look. So for instance, we have 785 minus 342. The standard algorithm, we just go ahead and subtract the place values. Okay, 5 minus 2 is 3. Go to my tens place, 8 minus 4, or 8 tens minus 4 tens is 4 tens. Then 7 hundreds minus 3 hundreds gives me 400. So 785 minus 342 is 443. Pretty easy. But remember I talked about regrouping when the numbers on the bottom are bigger than the numbers up top. We have to regroup. That's when the standard algorithm gets a little bit tricky and you have to remember to regroup. Because remember, you can't subtract a bigger number from a smaller number. But it's not that difficult if you just remember the steps. So again, we'll start with our ones place. 8's bigger than 4, so I don't have to regroup. I can just go ahead and subtract. 8 minus 4 gives me 4. Then I move over to my tens place. Well, in the tens place, I have 1 10 minus 7 tens. Well, I can't take 7 tens from 1 10, so I need to regroup. So I'd borrow from my next door neighbor. Remember, if there's more on the floor, I borrow from next door. So I borrow from my next door neighbor. I cross out the 5. It becomes 400. And I take that 100 that I'm borrowing and I regroup it into my tens as 10 tens. So that my 1, if I add 10 to 1, it turns into 11. So I no longer have 1 10, but now I have 11 tens. So 11 minus 7 is 4. So 11 tens minus 7 tens is 4. Then I finally go to my hundreds. 400 minus 300 equals 100. So I have 144. Let me show you that again, okay? Here I have 913 minus 647. Again, I'm going to start my ones. This time, my 7 is bigger than my 3, so I need to regroup. So I go to my next door neighbor, and I cross out the 1, and I borrow that 10. So my ones place becomes a 0, and I borrow 10, and I put it back into 3, so I no longer have 3 ones, but now I have 13 ones, because 3 ones plus 10 ones is going to give me, let's cross that out, 13 ones. 13 minus 7 gives me 6. Now I go back to my tens, and remember I had to borrow that 10, so I'm left with 0 tens now, and so I need to go to my hundreds place so I have something to subtract from. So I cross out my 900 and it turns into 800. And I regroup 100 back into my tens place, and if I have that, it becomes, I add 1 10 in there and it becomes 10 tens. So now I have 10 minus 4 is going to give me 6, and finally 800 minus 600 is 200. So I have 266. Okay, so when there's more on the floor, I gotta borrow from next door. If there's more on top, I don't stop. Now, what happens if you come across a 0? What do you do then? Well, look here, I have 405 minus 117. Again, I'm going to start my ones place, and again, in my ones place, the number on the bottom is bigger than the number up top. So I have to regroup. So if I go next door, there's 0. There's nothing to regroup from, so I have to keep going, and then I go into my hundreds place. I borrow 100 from my 400, and it becomes 300. I put that into my 0, which turns my 0 from 0 tens into 10 tens, because I borrowed 10 tens from my 100. And then I regroup again from my tens place, and I borrow one of those and I put it into my 5. So 110 plus 5 ones is going to give me 15 ones. Okay? So now I have enough to subtract, and I can just go ahead and subtract. 15 minus 7 equals 8. 9 tens minus 110 gives me 8 tens. And then 300 minus 100 is going to be 200. So I have 288. Let's take a look at this again. This time I have 2 zeros. Okay, I'm starting off with a 0 in the ones place, and I'm trying to take away 6. Well, I got to go next door twice in order to regroup and borrow. So my 300, I turn that into 200, and I borrow 100, and I turn that into 10 tens, because remember, 100 equals 10 tens, so I can go ahead and put those 10 tens into my tens place. Then I have to regroup again and borrow one of those 10 tens and put it into my ones place as 10 ones. So 10 ones minus 6 ones gives me 4 ones. 9 tens minus 2 tens gives me 7 tens. And then I turn that 3 into a 2, so 200 minus 200 is 0. Okay? And I don't even have to put that 0 there. I can just know that my answer is 74. Okay? So let's go back real quick and look at the regrouping so you understand what we're doing again. Let me show you this example one last time of what regrouping is. Regrouping is when you have bigger numbers on the bottom and you cannot subtract from the number up top. Okay? So I have 3 ones and I can't subtract 7 ones. So what I do is I go to my tens place and I turn 1 10 into 10 ones. So that becomes a 0, because if I subtract 110 from 110, it becomes 0. I add that 10 into my 3. So 10 ones plus 3 ones is going to turn into 13 ones. 13 minus 7 equals 6. Again, I have to borrow from next door here, because 0 tens minus 4 tens I can't do. I can't take 4 away from nothing. So I go back into my 9, I cross out my 9, it becomes 800, and my 0, because I'm borrowing 100, I turn that, when it goes into the tens place, into 10 tens. Okay? Now I have 10 tens, and I can subtract 4 tens from it. 10 tens minus 4 tens gives me 6 tens. And then I finally end at my hundreds. I have my 800 minus 600 equals 200. Again, we'll go over this in class. Practice as much as you can, and we'll go over in class, and hopefully in the next couple days it'll make a lot more sense. All right.